has never been a more important time to move in a vegan direction. Whether you're ready to start, restart, or re-energize your vegan or plant-based practice, this podcast is for you. I'm Michelle Olander, life coach, vegan, ADHD matriarch, travel lover, and smoothie loather. And I know that it's the details that get in the way of your vegan journey. But I like to believe that the obstacle is always the way. So every week we meet here where I translate the tools of life coaching and Stoic philosophy. I bring you actionable tips, some laughs, interesting guests, and vegan ideas for everyone at any age. All to help you veg your best. Episode 236, Going Vegan is not just another way to fail. Welcome back, my Vedge Bestie. Welcome back. This week's episode comes from a conversation I wasn't really in. I kind of horned my way into it, kind of shoehorned my way into it. But first, I just want to say, if you're not plant-based, if you're not vegan, and you listen to this podcast, I really want to thank you because I love that. And it's one of the things I'm most proud of with this podcast is that somehow or another, I hear from many of you, my Vedge Besties, I hear from many of you, and you are not 100% in, and you still listen. I really, really love that. You know, I listened to a lot of plant-based podcasts before I really became vegan, and then after I became vegan, I realized that there was, well, not to toot my own horn, but there was no other podcaster, vegan podcaster quite like me out there. Someone who didn't become vegan until her 50s. And I hear from some of you that right now, you aren't seriously considering moving in a fully vegan direction, but that you use the ideas here from Veg Your Best and some of the inspiration from our great guests in other aspects of your life. And that is fabulous because really, 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 really how you go vegan is just how you do anything. It's how you do everything. And I hear from you that you are using these ideas of coaching and thought work, and you're using them in your careers, in your relationships, in other areas of self-development, and it makes me so happy. And I think maybe for some of you who aren't really fully leaning into plant-based or vegan right now, and you still listen here almost every week, I think maybe this week's episode is going to really relate specifically to some of you. And then for those of you who are vegan, and there are a lot of you, or you practice a plant-based lifestyle, but maybe you're struggling a little with some of the other people. You know who they are. The other people in your lives who are dabbling and not really getting on board with you being vegan, or even not really getting on board with their own vegan or plant-based commitments. I think there's going to be something for you here this week too. You know, as I said at the top, I was next to a conversation. It wasn't really my conversation. And someone was talking to my friend about a project, kind of a big project, a stretch goal for her. And she was saying she wasn't making much progress on it. And I kind of butted in and I said, I can relate. Is that butting in? I said, amen, I can relate. Because I have been really stalled on a couple of things, including my website and putting myself out there to be promoting my work more. And she said, no, not the same as me. I'm not sure you can relate, Michelle. She said that. And I said, well, I don't know. She goes, no. I look around me. I know I need to do these things. I mean, I actually want to do these things, Michelle, but I've been saying that, if I'm honest, I've been saying that for years. And I do it for a while. I get started. I buy what I think I need. I download a course. I subscribe to a YouTube channel about it. I assemble what's necessary. I spend money, and then I don't follow through. And I said, but we all do that. Really, we all drop the ball. We all neglect to follow through on things. And if you're listening to this podcast and you think that going plant-based or vegetarian or vegan is just one more way you're going to fail, I want you to know that it's not because there's anything wrong with you. We all feel that about so many things. There's nothing wrong with that feeling, and it doesn't mean you're going to fail. We need to interrogate. What's that? What does that even mean, I'm going to fail? You're not in any way different from any other fabulous, high-functioning person out there who has also gone through that same stage. I promise you. Those struggles you feel, those struggles are not an indication of anything being wrong with you or your goal. Those struggles reflect your deep care, not your failure. Those negative feelings like frustration, guilt, overwhelm, disappointment, they actually show that you care deeply about something. It's actually a good thing. It's the inside out of a good thing. If it's a loved one that you know is having trouble moving in a plant-based direction, please don't say to them what my mom used to say to me. Classic Alice comment. If it mattered to you, you would just do it. Classic mom comment. And it's not that there's no truth to it, but there are some other things that also matter. That's why it's not happening. And when we're overwhelmed, when we don't trust ourselves with the new choices and the skills and the conversations and all the other things that matter, it's feeling like we're failing at another thing. People who want to stop eating animals, they feel these emotions because they value compassion, they value sustainability and health, and they are interpreting their struggles sometimes as proof that they can't do it, that they're not suited to it. We humans across the board do not do well when we're feeling guilty or inadequate or incapable. So what do? We sometimes, we just shut down. It is a completely normal human reaction to wanting to do something, thinking it might be important or good, and then not being able to do it. If you've ever had the opportunity or the privilege, really, to watch young people, it is one of the most affecting things you can watch. When a child or a young person is struggling, and the struggling just becomes too painful, too hard, so they shut down. They give up. And they look for accomplishment or affection or acknowledgement in another direction. And sometimes even form an identity completely opposite to the one they originally were attracted to. And I, for sure, myself, have gone through this a few times recently. You may have heard me whining about this last week or the week before about my website and how I just can't do it. I just can't do it. I'm honestly, this is how I feel all the time right now. And I toggle between feeling really overwhelmed and incapable of making the decisions involved and committing to the copy and feeling exposed and awkward because of the photographs. So on one side, I'm feeling just full on inept. And also knowing it's just a website. Anyone can do this. I mean, there's a designer helping me. So on one side, I feel horrible and dread working on it and feeling like a complete whiny baby. And on the other, there's the relief of, forget it. Let's just forget about it. Let's just forget forget about the website. Let's, whatever. Maybe I should just shut that whole thing down. I'm wondering if you have a similar example in your life. Because when I can just step back and see myself in that toggle between feeling super uncomfortable and frustrated and kind of reaching for the relief switch of just quitting. When I can see that happening, I can ask myself, well, do you want the website? Because I'm not thinking about the website in this situation. What I'm thinking about is what I don't want. I don't want to feel awkward and overwhelmed and embarrassed at my inability to get through it faster, and anticipating all the people that could judge me about it or say something about it, and taking time away from all the other things that seem easier or more immediately necessary to do. That's what I don't want. I don't want all those feelings. But those negative feelings, the reaction of wanting to just shut it down, shut it off, be done with it, that's actually just an indication that I actually do want it. I actually do want a functioning, clear, finished website. And maybe I just need to ask for more help. And maybe I just need to be a little more compassionate with myself, and maybe break it down into smaller chunks, which seems a little embarrassing to say, but maybe that's what I need. Smaller chunks, easier decisions, instead of just reaching for the nuclear option and throwing the proverbial baby out with the bathwater. So this dynamic happens a lot for people moving in a vegan direction. And if you start feeling some discomfort, or feeling like you aren't doing it successfully, or it's not easy, you can start to interpret those feelings as some sort of fact that you're not able to do this, that your lifestyle, or your family situation, or your character, or your body, or you just can't. Have you ever felt that way? I just can't. But maybe like my website struggle example, you just need to ask for a little more help, be a little more compassionate with yourself, and break it down into some smaller chunks. Even if it seems like you've already broken it down into smaller chunks. Maybe you just need to try smaller still. And maybe the big feelings are just an indicator that you do want the goal and that you actually are on your way. Sometimes it's just simply a matter of redefining what success, what this goal looks like, because too many of us, so many of us, not just those of us socialized as women, so many of us just with human brains have this tendency towards an all or nothing vision of success, an all or nothing vision of what the outcome is, thinking that, oh, well, we must be perfect vegans who never slip up. Remember that metaphor of air travel that we talked about once, maybe a few times. You fly from Boston to San Francisco. Plane takes off in Boston, lands in San Francisco, but during the flight, the plane is off course most of the time because of jet streams, movement and weather, and avoiding turbulence and air traffic recommendations. But the pilot doesn't forget where he's going. He doesn't just go, oh my God, it's hard. The pilot just keeps reorienting around the realities of what is in the way. And we can do that too. Instead of an overwhelming idea of getting it right, whatever getting it right means, or getting there in the most direct, perfect, linear way, your way towards any important, worthy goal is going to have obstacles. And those obstacles will include knowledge, other people, skills, access, weather, health, focus, seasons, millions of things. So maybe when we have these obstacles, we just focus on clarifying what is possible right here and right now. Success right here and right now may not mean some sort of idealized never eating any animal product ever again. It actually might mean eating plant-based at home, even if social situations are harder to anticipate or to be sure that you have something available. It might just mean having a go-to list of easy vegan meals or snacks in your car, or simply reducing the quantity or frequency of animal products without stressing about the idealized version of perfection. Part of our concern of this new project, maybe it's going plant-based, maybe it's going vegan, maybe it's having a website, maybe it's any big goal that's a stretch goal for you, is the fear that inside there's going to be more work and more responsibility, and it's never going to relent. And this is very relevant to veganism. Many, many people I know, I can hear it in their conversations with me, who say they can't even think about moving in a vegan direction because the resistance about all or nothing, of fully committing forever to a fully vegan lifestyle, not just because they don't know how, but because it never ends. That's what they're thinking. But forever? Really? Forever? Am I going to have to read every label forever? What if my family judges me? What am I going to say? Does that mean I don't ever have a family holiday meal or a wedding cake ever again? What if I have to constantly explain my choices forever? I mean, when I think about forever about most things, I'm not excited. Instead of jumping into an overwhelming future, we can always focus on scaling at a sustainable pace. You might not want to know everything there is about plant-based nutrition. You may not want to be a full-time activist. You may not want to go on vigils at the slaughterhouses. There are so many different ways to do this process, and it's okay. Maybe you remember that the name of the podcast is Vedge Your Best. Going vegan does not have to mean going vegan overnight. Small, sustainable steps like committing to certain meatless meals, adding in extra plant-based dishes to crowd out animal products, these are all valid and valuable goals. They're chunking it down into what you can do instead of thinking, just another way I'm going to fail. Because what we're looking for here is the feeling of freedom, of feeling happy with your choices, not feeling restricted, not feeling judged, not feeling inept or incapable. You may fear that actually making progress in a new goal is going to mean more work for on. And sometimes people feel like being vegan means being trapped, never enjoying those meals, always saying no, always being the difficult one. But in reality, getting clear on your choices, having some support, chunking down that process into smaller pieces, it does actually free us from daily decision fatigue, from that cycle of self-judgment. And there's so many different ways to do it. For some people, it's knowing what their go-to plant-based meals are so they don't have to panic at every dinner. For some people, it's having an answer ready in social situations so they don't have to stress. They know people will have comments. For some people, they need to focus on what their personal version of vegan or plant-based success is for them right this minute so they can just relax and get better at the things that they're learning right now. For you, maybe it's one plant-based meal that you love. Maybe it's one response you can use when asked something. Maybe it's one alternative you can make or buy. Clarity makes all of it simpler. So if going vegan, if eating a whole food plant-based diet, if doing your website over, if it all feels like one more way you're going to fail, don't just rush by that feeling. Take a pause. And if someone you love keeps starting and stopping or procrastinating and it's driving you crazy, it's worth asking, are they maybe just expecting too much of themselves all at once? Is this just that human tendency we all have towards perfectionist thinking? Are they trying to change too many things at the same time? Do they need a little clarity, a little help with making some clarity on what really matters right now? And do they need someone else to maybe volunteer to make a couple of the decisions? My Vedge Bestie, you don't need to prove anything to me or anyone. Everyone is dealing with a lot right now, a lot. Whatever our goals or ideals, some of us will be having a harder time making progress than others. And when that happens, there is a tendency to just give up or punt it or blame someone. I love that one. Or blame someone or something. You're not failing, though. You're not failing if you can just take a step. In fact, you can't really fail at something that's not even a test. Did you know it's not a pass-fail exam? Did you know that, like most important things, a vegan journey, a plant-based diet, it's just a practice. It's just a series of choices you learn how to make, and you learn how to align with your values, your goals, and your reality. Every single step you take counts, no matter how small, and the more steps you take, you get better. The more steps you take, the better you get. Veganism is not a new way I have for you to fail at something. It isn't. There are no perfect vegans. There is not a perfect diet. There's not even a perfect website out there for me. And we want to build a tent big enough so people can feel safe enough to join us, to join you as you veg your best.
Veg Your Best podcast production, music, and editing by Charlie Weinshank. Thanks, Charlie. Before you go, it would mean so much to me and the Veg Your Best team if you would hit subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, or share with someone you think might be interested. Something about algorithms, it helps bump us up a little in the rankings, and that's the best way to help others find the podcast and for us to find our audience. So, until next week, make it easy and veg your best.